All right, we are live.
Have you thought about a question, a small talk question for this one? Normally, Greg, this is your first time with us. Normally, we have a nonsense small talk question too while we're waiting for people.
I feel like we're well into Christmas mode now. So,
Yeah.
What's your favorite sweet Christmas treat?
Ooh. Just because I used to get them every year from like my grandparents when I was a kid. I do love them Maltesers. And like I didn't grow up in the UK, so like it was always quite funny from the family that did live in the UK. Like they would often send in the post like a small packet of Maltesers, and that was quite, for me, that was always just quite a fun thing growing up.
You can get those all year round, right?
Yeah, no, I know, but for whatever reason, that was like my UK Christmas chocolate.
That is nice.
Which is weird.
That's nice.
I do have a very fun weekend story though.
That's probably much more exciting.
We've got on our little housing estate, we've got a couple of neighbours who have a really nice dog, who we've seen them like walking a few times, and basically we ran into them the other week when they were with the dog, and they were looking for, like, they obviously needed help, and they were like quite stressed with the dog because they have kids as well, and so I just like walked up to them, was like, hey, do you need a hand? I was playing around with the dog. And basically, it emerged that they need help dog sitting. Like they don't have anyone in our area that can dog sit for them. And for anyone just joining us, I'm originally from South Africa, and South Africa were playing Wales in rugby where I live this weekend, in Cardiff, where I live. And it turned out the guy who I'd never met before works for Welsh Rugby. And because he was like so taken that I'd helped him with his dog and volunteered to dog sit and stuff. He was like, "Here, have a free ticket to the South Africa game this weekend." Wow. So that was my weekend, just for being nice and playing with a dog. I got a free rugby ticket.
Oh, that's much more exciting than mine.
Okay. Oh, we have. I'm supposed to be listening. Yes, sorry. This is absolutely for you. We're just having a bit of small talk at the beginning, and I always, default to weather. So we thought a nice story from Greg instead. Okay. Well, it looks like we've got quite a few people in here, so we can get started. Let me go over to the chat. So if you've got any questions, just stick them in the chat. One of us will pick it up as we go along. So no need to wait until the end, but we do have some time at the end for questions and answers. Let me jump over to here. Okay. So as you know, we're kind of going to be taking a slightly different, I suppose, theme today. Like if you have joined these before, so they tend to be quite technical, but today we just want to give you a little bit more of an introduction to AI in marketing, but also some best practices that we've picked up along the way. So we're going to be showing you some examples of clients and how they've put it in place and why. But we're actually going to start off with Greg, who's going to take us through a little bit more of a kind of, why AI, what are we doing, what's happening in that space, just to get us started. And for anyone who isn't familiar with Leadoo's AI, then we just want to give you an idea of what that is before we jump into everything. So I will hand the mic over to you, and I will be your clicker.
Awesome. Please click then.
Okay.
So welcome, everyone. My name is Greg. I'm the head of marketing at Leadoo. So I'm just talking to you today really as a marketer, as someone who has a lot of these same thoughts and questions and concerns about AI as well, in the work that I do with my team day to day. And what I wanted to unpack with you all was, if you flick on, Helen, sorry. There we go. So marketing in AI is a really interesting one, because what we see, this is just a little Google Trends analysis that I've done over the last 5 years, for instance. What we really see from marketers a few years ago is this kind of boon and interest in AI, in marketing in general. Basically, people looking for things about how AI can help them and their teams do their job better. So that blue line there is just the amount of searches for AI in marketing as a topic. And what you can see, even going back years, kind of before even the last couple of years, and all the interest in ChatGPT that we've seen and LLMs, you can see that marketers have been looking around this topic. They're very interested to see how AI can help them create content, do their jobs better, save them time, create efficiencies in their teams. And that goes back years. But what we see more recently is that marketers aren't just looking for help with how AI can help them do marketing better. What we're really seeing now is much more of an interest specifically in AI for conversational tools. So you can see in the red there, AI chatbots, for instance, that as a search term in relation to AI marketing has gone through the roof and completely overtaken it. And likewise, people looking for advice in the yellow there on how they can use AI to improve their websites and get more out of their websites specifically, I should say. So what we can glean from this is marketers obviously have a real interest in AI and help them do their jobs better. But really, it's about on-site conversational experiences, chatbots that can help service customers and drive lead gen. Marketers are really interested in AI for conversational experiences specifically. And if you flick on, it's not just marketers that are interested in this and expecting this, it's executives, okay? So this is actually from a piece of research that was published by HubSpot more than a year ago. It's in April 2023, you can see there. And even back then, even a year and a half ago, they asked executives what they thought the best application of generative AI would be for their businesses. So just all C-suite level execs, they did a big survey and they asked them, basically, how can AI help your business in your mind? And you can see there that the top use case that came out of that survey wasn't around data, it wasn't around creating new products or helping customers find things better or even generating content or images or videos. It was chatbots. It was conversational experiences on websites and to help customer service use cases. So marketers are interested in this. Marketers know that this is a real obvious use case for them, but executives do as well. And executives are expecting marketers, we've increasingly seen this year, to be integrating AI on site because they know that it's a key efficiency driver for lead gen and for customer service. So flicking on, we as marketers know that AI has huge potential in the conversational space. So do our bosses, and so do the public. So we'll send out these slides afterwards, but there's a link at the bottom there if you want to see any of these sources. But all this comes from McKinsey and IBM, who've studied this increasingly in the last year. And what they've found is that people increasingly want and expect AI, and particularly personalization through AI. So that top stat there from IBM, they looked at this and they found that 59%, so basically 3 in 5 consumers prefer to use AI applications like chatbots when they shop online. Not they think they can be useful in some cases, they prefer to use them when they're shopping online and looking for information about different products or different specs. The percentage of consumers who expect, not want, but expect to have a personalized experience when shopping or buying or researching online is more than 70%. And you can see at the bottom there, that translates to almost or more than 2/3 of consumers who say they get really frustrated when online buying interactions and research isn't tailored to them. So this isn't just maybe the nice to have that it was a year or two ago. This isn't something that's, oh, it could be interesting for our users. We as a society are getting used to AI. We're becoming conditioned to having tools at our fingertips that can give us really personal and instant answers. The way people use things like Copilot now has just exploded. So people prefer this stuff, they want it, they expect it, and they get frustrated when they don't have access to it online. But if you flick on, this does create a bit of a dilemma for us as marketers, because we know that this is interesting. We know it can work. We know it can save time. We know it can help lead gen. We know it can help customer service. Our executives, our bosses are telling us, you need to incorporate this to be more efficient and to improve performance. We know that there's a desire from the public to use these tools, but it's scary, right? Because stuff like this happens. And there's several cases like this that have sprung up in the last year. This is probably the most famous one, where Air Canada, they had an AI chatbot on the website and it told somebody that they weren't entitled for like a bereavement payment. They were trying to rearrange their ticket around the funeral. They do have a policy around that. Normally they allow customers certain refunds when it comes to bereavement cancellations and things like that. And the AI chatbot informed the customer that it wasn't eligible for a bereavement rebooking or discount. And so that is just flat out wrong, incorrect information that's been given out by that company's AI chatbot. And this is the dilemma for us as marketers. We know this stuff is wanted by our users, by our bosses. We know other people in our space are incorporating AI and conversational experiences on websites, but we are also terrified of stuff like this happening because we are ultimately responsible for our brands and for our websites. And so we at Leadoo, we are a marketing platform. We're here to serve marketers. We know the needs of marketers. We know that this is the kind of thing that marketers lose sleep over at night. And so when we, as you'll see now, created Leadoo AI, this was paramount for us to be able to avoid instances like this. We know the demand is there. We know it can be effective for companies, but we have to have those safeguards in place.
You're mute. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that typical. I forgot where the mute button was. Sorry. Greg, do you want to take us through these slides, or would you like us to continue?
I think you go ahead. You're the day-to-day experts.
Okay, great. Well, so this is to give you a bit of an overview of like how Leadoo AI works, and on the back of what Greg said. So there's a few parts, I suppose, components to Leadoo AI, but one of the biggest things that we use is the knowledge bases. So this is very much about what your content is and training the AI on your information, your products, and making sure that it's specific. And so when it answers those questions, it's going to be giving the correct information. So we can say what it should be trained on, what it shouldn't be trained on. We can use documents that are not necessarily available on the website, PDFs, FAQ documents. So we can actually train it on a lot of information without it necessarily having to be live, but also picking and choosing what should be there as well. Let me go on. So like generally the idea of that is, you know, what's the purpose of all of that? So whilst we have this knowledge base, it's got all the content there, but like what is its purpose? And that's one of the things that me and Gavin focus on a lot with our customers, is actually saying, oh, what are we actually using this for and what makes sense? So we will show you some customer examples of how we put them in place, like we said before, but it's thinking about what goal you want to achieve from it, because we don't want it to be the be all and end all of what your chatbot does or your bots do on your site, because we know that there are tried and tested techniques that you probably already have live if you've got Leadoo bots. It's about adding something to that strategy. So it's like, are we trying to answer, you know, really broad FAQs because you're getting a lot of that, you know, coming through to your sales team, and, you know, maybe you've got a complex product that needs to be kind of educated your customers about before they get through to someone. You know, are we trying to make it so the people get to customer service when they need to? So we need to think about, you know, certain things that get asked and routing them through to live chat where it makes sense, but also serving people in different regions. So as a company, Leadoo, we have offices in many countries, which means that we've got people from all across Europe inquiring with us. So being able to serve people in the languages that they want to interact with us is really important, but it may not necessarily be always possible to have an entire website in that language. So AI is able to, you know, serve those people in that case. But more importantly is that we've got these things available 24/7. So our automated chat already does that. So when you're not in the office, we're trying to serve people. AI is really the next level to that. How can we broaden our approach, answer more questions, you know, out of hours and in real time to serve a customer better, to ultimately get them through to making that inquiry or, you know, asking for that demo. So we kind of covered this a little bit already, you know, that we train the AI on your specific content. So that's part of like its knowledge base, its brain, the fact that it can serve people in different languages. But there's also some other bits to this. So being able to give suggestions to help people, you know, answer the next question in the conversation, keeping that conversation going, being able to kind of prompt the AI on how you want it to talk to the customers. So, you know, there's some automatic selections for the type of tone, but you can also see below there the system prompt. So this is where we can give it even more specific instructions on how to respond to things, even saying, if you get asked this, answer this way. So we can really tailor it so your customers are getting the information they need, not the information that they shouldn't. And it also feels as, you know, part of your company's brand too. So I'm going to jump into an example, but I'm going to take a breath and just see if there's any questions before we sort of dive into all the use cases. Just feel free to put them into the questions or the chat, if so everyone else can see your question as well. Or if any of my colleagues on the call have any questions or anything that I might have missed. I think we're good to go. All right. So we split this up into a couple different use cases that we think would be appropriate for everyone on the call. We did have a look at who you were beforehand. So we tried to pick a few different ones that you could relate to. So the first one I've picked here, and this is just a kind of, I suppose, a video of how it actually looks on the site. I will show you how it is on the website as well. But this is for an IT services company. So the thing with service-based companies is that you tend to have this range of different services, and there could be such a long list of questions that people may ask. And the automated chat works really well at looking at the kind of highlights. What are the top hitting questions that we want to respond to? But the AI comes in when we're talking about more specific questions. So in this case, they start with, I need help with Dynamics GP. We've got some automated options that come up. But if I say I have another query, you can see now that there's an open text box. This is the AI coming into play. And you can see how quickly it answers. This GIF is quite slow, but actually it comes back with this information in detail, but also still a summary. So we're getting the key information for this person. It's clear that it's AI, but we're also following up with some additional questions if they want to keep that conversation going. So this is very much about not making AI the only thing, but using it, especially for this particular service, in a smart way. So I'll just jump over to here. So this is where the in-page bot in this case lives on their website. It's right on the home page. So we're making this like an interactive part of the home page. Quite often people are navigating away from the home page very quickly. In this case, we're making that home page part of that navigation experience. So you can see we're trying to look at, you know, what that person's need is before they then go into those other options. And this is part of the stuff that me and my colleagues in onboarding will build out in the beginning. You know, we're thinking about who the persona is, what do they need, but when we can't serve them with those options, that's when we have to come into play with the AI. Okay. So I'm going to now hand over to Gavin, who's going to show you a different example. Let me go to here.
Lovely. So I should be on the your workspace one. So this is quite a good one because it's a bit slightly different than the example that you had, in that there was a starting question first, and then we went into AI. What they've went for is they've went full AI, and the reason is, again, sort of tying back to what Greg was mentioning at the start, is about getting the instant answers, you know, a better user experience. They're expecting this sort of experience whenever they come to the site, because before we jump into the chat, if we look at the amount of products that they have, am I sharing my...
Yeah, sorry, let me double check. Do you want the presentation or do you want the website?
Just my screen, please.
Okay.
Lovely. Okay. Yeah, so they've got quite a load of, you know, quite a vast range of products. So the idea of building out individual pathways on a chatbot experience would be sort of really time consuming. You'd have to build one out for each pathway and then hope that people went down it to sort of validate all that work that you put in. And also you would have to sort of guess what the questions would be and things like that. It would just it's just not really feasible with this sort of product range. So we are talking B2B here, but this would work on B2C as well, obviously. So if you do have a wide range of products, this would be ideal. So what they've gone for is that they've basically just plugged all of the data sheets, the website, all the information into the AI, and then that's what it references to get those answers. So let me just jump over to the knowledge base just quickly, because that's, again, the highlight of what we were showing earlier about training it on the right information. We don't want another Air Canada situation on our hands here, obviously. So we're able to specifically tell it what to train it on. So these are the brochures for each product. Then we're also scanning the pages on the website. It may often be that the brochures aren't available online. Maybe you want to get those for lead capture. You're trying to get sort of softer leads converted through those brochures. So you wouldn't want them readily available, but it's great to have them for the AI when people are going through that decision-making phase. So what you'll see is that we're generating the questions that they think will be the most commonly asked, and also giving them the AI options. So if we were then to ask about something about like the smart lockers, so like what type of lockers you do, and obviously I've spelled that wrong. So then instead of having to rely on the person knowing exactly what they want, because they may have an idea of what they need, but they don't know the product that matches up. And you may have 2 or 3 products that maybe suit the need, but depending on what they need exactly, it'd be slightly different. So we can get a bit of an idea about the range that's being offered here. And then because we've asked about lockers, then we're down into a pathway that the AI has basically just built its own pathway, in a sense, about lockers and about similar questions. So without AI, you would have had to build these out manually and then given it answers for each of those options, which, as I'm sure you could imagine, would be an absolute nightmare to build. So the reason that this has really been successful for these guys is that, as I say, like wide range of products, it helps people then come to the site. They're not maybe exactly sure what they need, so it helps them move them down the funnel into that decision-making phase. They're able to self-serve. They're able to find the relevant information that they need, and then from there, they're able to take that next step into speaking to a specialist or getting quotes and things as they may need. And that's really all for this one. I mean, if there's any questions before we move on to the other, as I say, this is B2B, but it would work very similar for B2C as well.
Yeah, so I have a question actually, Gavin. So as a product-based business, and is there a way that you can make this more visual, or kind of make those, I suppose, the information that the AI is giving about the products kind of more interactive?
Yes, we can. It wouldn't apply for this one specifically because they're not tied to an e-com platform, but we have released an update quite recently. It's been able to link to things like Shopify and those sort of e-com platforms where we could pull directly in we basically like stock levels, images about the product, information about the product. And we're actually going to be touching on the intent side in a little bit, and they'll tie together. So we would use basically what you've asked for within the chat. It would then go to the integration, fetch that information directly from Shopify and say, we've got five lockers left, etc. And here's an image of it, and here's a wee bit more information. So I suppose depending on the specific use case, if there was a customer online who wanted to chat about that, get in touch with your your account manager. Certainly, it's something that we can look into, but it's quite a new integration feature.
Great. I think that was all the only question I had.
Great.
Right, let me take it back over. Okay, so the next one is quite similar to the first one, but it's very much focused on FAQs. So in this example, the biggest reason for us using AI is because this company has such a wide range of services in a multitude of industries that it meant that the customers just weren't getting served as they want them to on site. So they were filling out forms, getting through to, eventually to a team, then necessarily that team, wasn't the right one. So actually the website visitors, even if they were making an inquiry, which we want them to do, it might take them days to get through to the right team or get the right information. So training the AI on those different services individually was really important. So the way that we went about it is, as Gavin showed you before with the knowledge bases, is creating these kind of targeted knowledge bases on the services, on the industries, and splitting them up so we could answer these FAQs consistently. So just like before, I've just got this GIF running in the background just to give you an idea of what it looks like and how it's returning that information. But if I switch over to here, so this one's in a chatbot format. So you've seen it in both the in-page bot and the chatbot. It can be used in both those formats depending on what makes sense for your site, for the page. But again, we're utilizing this alongside things like the automated kind of chat, pre-scripted chat, as well as live chat. So it's very much like part of that strategy of how do we get people the information they need? How do we get the right people to talk to a human when they need to, but also reducing kind of those typical FAQs where we could just point someone to the right place. But if all else fails and we haven't got an option that suits someone, then they can, go through to the AI and ask these questions here, whether it's on training, whether it's on certification, we're being able to provide them with that information. Let me go back to here. So for them, in this case, it's been really successful in that people are having a much better experience on site, and it's really suited for large businesses. So even if you are a medium to large sort of enterprise business, the AI can really serve your customers on site whilst, not losing that experience of getting the right information and speaking to humans when they need to. I can see there were some questions. I think it was more about the Shopify stuff, and I was kind of carrying on. But if you wanted to jump in and talk about that in any more detail.
No, that's grand. Greg gave a link there. So yeah, we can connect to WooCommerce and a few other ones as well. So there's a link in there to have a look through. You can read up on that latest blog. I was actually just going to ask about the the LRQA example there, and the fact that it's such a large and intensive knowledge base. And because I've worked with, I showed the knowledge base where we had two different ones, one which had the brochures and one which had all the sites. I mean, how are you managing that for that brand? I mean, how many knowledge bases are there, and you sort of recommendations about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's done in a few different ways. So this particular company, they have, I can't remember how many it is, but I think it's about 15 different domains in various different languages. So we actually have the knowledge bases split up by the domain and the language, especially if they've got services that are different from one another. Then we've got kind of a general knowledge base, sort of trying to, if we're not sure what their query is about, then we've got some general information. Then it's split up into kind of type of service. So we're looking at kind of these areas here. And even into the training, it goes down into a bit more detail. So the idea being is that we want to split these knowledge bases up into chunks. So the AI finds it easier to retrieve the information. So when you go through the chatbot and you say that you want something about assessment and certification, then we're going to be drilling down already. So the AI already knows that it needs to answer questions about assessment and certification. That way, you're going to increase the quality of the responses from AI. And in addition, we also know that if they make an inquiry, we already know what their inquiry was about because we can see all of the selections that have come before when that inquiry comes through. So on both sides, it works really well to kind of split it up into those chunks. So if you're considering AI, think about how that's structured and think about how you can split it up, and all of that will just increase the quality of what's coming out at the other end.
Nice one.
Nice. Okay. Which one? I'm sharing the...
Yes, you have to just go to the next slide. Yep. It's a wee bit blurry, I guess, but we'll be sending the slides on. It'll look better when you get them in your actual hands. So this is a new feature that we've just added, I think last week, perhaps. So it's the idea of leveraging intent and the visitor's intent through what they're saying. So as I'm sure you've seen on the examples, there's always been speak to a specialist, get a quote, talk to a human option that's constant on all the prompts. Now, what this does is it sort of alleviates the need for that, and it lets you add in multiple CTAs that don't actually need to be there, because you don't want to have 6-7 buttons there about download brochure, sign up for webinars, all those things. So what we've built is a way that the AI can read the conversation and pick up basically the intent of the conversation, and then transition from AI into lead capture nodes or live chat or a different pathway entirely. It doesn't have to just go to lead capture. It can go, to a customer service link that maybe takes them to the portal so they could log in and access their account, or whatever it may be. But the idea is that we're trying to seamlessly transition from the AI conversation into that actionable lead capture point. And so how we've done this is we basically built a way for you to put in keywords and phrases to be able to identify what people are asking for, and then from there we jump into those lead capture points. So if I could share my screen again. So it's if you've got AI, this is already available to you. It's underneath AI. It's just under intents. If you don't, it's included in, if you were going to take it on in the future. But basically how it works is you would make an intent, and in this case I've just gone for pricing request. Obviously it could be anything. It could be get a quote, it could be download brochure, etc. But the idea here is that you want to give it a bit of a description so that AI knows exactly what it is and what it's for. And then you want to add in some example utterances. And what those are is like the keywords and the phrases. So how many different ways would someone ask for pricing? And how do your customers normally ask for that? Whenever they're speaking to you, would they normally say things like, how much does it cost? Where can I see your pricing? I'd like a quote. So you can put in those different variations to sort of catch all those options. And then we're just trying to say, this is to determine when a visitor is ready to speak to someone, and then we move them into the next phase. And then I'll just show you how you add it in 2 seconds, and then I'll show you the live example. So whenever you log into your AI, you'll see we've got intents here, and it's just a drop down. So you'll just add in the pricing request, and you'll notice that it's got a little marker beside it. So the visitor won't see this like the way they would see the send to a specialist. And the idea is that then you could drag that and put it into a form node, which is, of course we can help you with pricing. If you drop in a few details, we can take it from there, or whatever it may be. And the real benefit of this is, now we've reduced this. We're able to get rid of this. We're able to add in lots of other CTAs so that we can make that transition from AI. Because what we're finding with AI is that we're getting lots of discussions with people, and they do transition into leads because they've been able to use AI to do the research and to sort of move themselves down the funnel. But this is just helping push them on a little bit further. Obviously, because depending on what they're asking for, we can make that transition. And so we've got the preview here. And let's see if it'll work in a live demo. Hopefully, this isn't live on their site yet because it's just gone live last week, and they're just doing a bit of testing on it to make sure that they're happy with how it is. So because I've said, tell me about your pricing, now we're out of AI completely, and we've gone into, we'd be happy to help with a quote. Please enter a few details to get started. And then at that point, we can ask whatever we would like, and we're just into the normal Leadoo chatbot flow. So we're really excited about this. Obviously, if you have any questions or any use cases in mind you'd like to discuss, let me know now, or we can chat about it offline, whatever you'd prefer.
I have a question actually. So I think you mentioned it very briefly about like why using this instead of just using kind of the call to action buttons, and kind of what would be the benefit of doing that, and like why, I guess like any suggestions on how people should approach that.
Yeah, it's just a really good way of subtly having those calls to actions there, because as I say, what we find is that we're getting lots and lots of discussions with the AI, but we are still relying on the visitor to click the button to say, I'd like a quote, or I'd like to speak to someone. Whereas now what we're able to do is, based on what they've said, so if they're asking you things about pricing, they're asking about how much does it cost, if they're asking about those sort of things, then we know that there's an intent there. They have identified themselves as being further down the funnel. And at that point, we can take them out of AI we don't need to nurture them as such anymore in that case. But that's for the sort of the higher intent options. For people who aren't ready yet or lower intent, you may have another, like a whole host of options for them there. Like, as I say, the webinar sign up, maybe you've got brochure downloads, signing up for a newsletter. Maybe if they typed in something like, where could I get more up-to-date information, or how can I stay up to date with your product releases, or something like that. That could then trigger moving out into signing up for a newsletter. So it's a way of being able to find out what they want just by what they've been typing in, without them having to physically click. Because I suppose there might still be a bit of reluctance to, I'm not quite ready to speak to sales yet, but if we transition them sort of more naturally, we're hoping that we'll see a better impact.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's kind of like saying, let's help serve them, but we're not relying on that individual to get themselves to the right place, which is exactly why we put Leadoo in place on people's websites in the first place. We don't want to have someone passively find their way to get to that conversion. We want to try and nudge them along to it. And this is kind of taking that to the next level.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, we've actually run through our content quite quickly. So I think we wanted to leave plenty of time for questions, and we'll send all of the slides through to everyone so you can click through those options, just look through them a bit at your leisure. We also wanted this to serve as a bit of inspiration. So if you've got something that you have in mind that you're curious about whether AI can help you do, ask us now, or arrange a session with your account manager and have a chat about it. Let us put together some examples of how we can make it work using AI. We're more than happy to kind of talk you through the options, or putting together a demo so you can see if it will work in your case. But really, we just want you to interact with us and tell you what you need, and give us a little bit of a challenge as well. See how we can make it work. I see, Greg, you've just popped in a well-timed case study there.
Yeah, wouldn't be doing my marketing job if I didn't. So that's a case study from a company called MatrixWorks, and the headline is that for them, since they implemented Leadoo AI, up to 90% of the leads coming through their website, Leadoo AI is a touch point. The user has had a conversation specifically with the AI. And that's kind of one point that I just wanted to emphasize quickly from a marketing point of view. I'm judged as a marketer on how many leads I'm driving through the website, how many opportunities I'm driving for sales and the business. And as much as Leadoo AI is, an amazing customer experience touch point, and it can help answer FAQs, and it can help even existing customers navigate their way through a service or find new products. What we're seeing with Leadoo AI and some of this intense stuff that Gavin showed, for instance, is that AI really can be a lead generation driver. It's not just for customer service. It's about driving people through the funnel and getting them to conversion points and getting them comfortable to a point where they're happy to leave their information as a lead for you.
Gavin, I think this might be a question for you. Laura's putting you on the spot.
Hi, Laura. Yeah, yes. I mean, the benefit of AI, and as I suppose just Greg has just highlighted there, is it's that nurturing capability of it. So the idea is that people are coming to the site, maybe they're not sure exactly where they're at in the funnel. Maybe they're researching, maybe they're a bit further down. And where we've seen the benefit for AI for the other clients is that it's able to grab all that information that it can self-serve, it can find out a bit more about the product, the services that's on offer, and ask it questions that are specific to their business. So, you could ask, someone could come onto the site and say, I'm a business of X size, or we're trying to achieve this, or, how would your business help me do this? And the AI would be able to give an answer based on the content that's on the site and the content that we've fed it from documents and, brochures and things like that. So what we're finding is that nurturing process is being sped up by AI. So I suppose depending on the content that's being fed into it and the visitors that come to the site, in theory, yes, we should be able to, because we're trying to help them sort of nurture themselves on further down the funnel. I think Greg is into that. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I was just going to come in there, Laura. I obviously don't know your business anywhere near as well as Gav does, but for something like what you sell, you know, cybersecurity and compliance, right? That's not something you buy on a whim. That's something that somebody might come to a website 50 times over 6 months before they're happy to say, yes, this is who I want to go ahead with as a provider in this area. And so for something that is technical, for something that is high value, for something that might require a lot of trust and touch points along the journey to ultimately convert me into a potential customer, what we find is that this is great, because obviously someone coming to your website for the 10th time when they're 2 months into the buying journey is going to have very, very different questions than someone who's coming on for the first or the second time. And so the fact that this AI can dynamically answer whatever their question is at that particular stage, we find that this can work really, really well if someone has those long, complicated buying journeys that I'm sure they do in your sector.
And I think if I remember rightly, with when we were building out the original bots for Bob's business, one of the things was understanding those different like kind of packages, or the different routes that people were taking. So obviously we took a kind of, okay, a more generic approach to how do we move people through that information and that education. And like Greg was saying, it's actually giving them the right answer at the right time. So actually we can personalize that journey, help them find the right route, the right kind of training package, for, you know, based on the questions that they have or the goals that they, you know, they've got as a company. I'm guessing Laura wants us to be quiet. Thank you. You've answered me very well. Okay. Any other questions from anyone else? Okay. Well, if anything else comes through or anyone thinks of anything, you know that you can get in touch with us. You can send us an email. We'll follow up with these slides, as I said. But please don't hesitate to ask us about it. We love chatting to you. But I think we will let you all go. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you again in the next one. I can't remember what it's about, but we'll tell you in the next newsletter. So if you're not already signed up, look out for it.
Great. All the best.